Three, two, one. Welcome to March to the Pod, currently the only podcast designed to exclusively talk about the Sam Houston Bearkats. Today's show, we got a big show. First leg today, we're going to have a recap of the CUSA Media Day and discuss that joke of a preseason poll, which is about the nicest thing I have to say about that, along with the all-conference team, which also seemed to be a bit of a joke, but I can excuse that. Second leg, we got some inside information on a signee that's in the works for the football team. And we'll finish by discussing the men's basketball roster and coaching staff. That is on tap today. I'm your host, Corey Hogue, the non-FBS insider at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Find me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and wherever else you want to find me, Threads, whatever we got these days, at Corey Hogue Sports, all one word. Last name is Hogue, and my first name does not have an E. So, I'm used to it by now. But if you search for me, you're not going to find me. I'm joined here by the creator and manager of Sports of SHSU on Twitter and Instagram and Threads and probably every other platform, the chief operating officer of Cat Fund and proud Bearcat alum, Ben Sorrells. How you doing, Ben?
Man, happy to be here. We've got a full slate today, lots to talk about, so I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, this is only our second episode. The first one was like the intro, but this one, we're starting to get into some meat and potatoes. Just want to let everybody know we are a podcast on the Republic of Football Network. We are proud to be a part of the Dave Campbell's Texas Football and that Republic of Football Network. Please go find us, download, like, subscribe, any platform that you're on. You can find our podcast there. Also, follow us on various social media forms. Again, we've got Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. You're going to find us at March to the Pod. It's all one word. You can, if you're watching the video, it's right there. And it's all one word on there. You can find us. We've got all those pages. We would love to have you not only come there, but interact with us. Let us know what you think, because this show is for you. And since we already pointed up to March to the Pod, I want to give a shout out and a little hello to our those watching us on the Dave Campbell's YouTube page. How you doing? Hey, you see, you tell me you need our face, and here we are, right here. I got 4 ears. I got 3 ears. Ben, you got 4.
Yep, I do.
I have part of my face missing because of the way the background does with my microphone. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll make it work. I don't know how it'll look, but we'll make it work. They'll make us look good, right?
Maybe the people watching this will turn off the video and just listen to us. Maybe that's what they want to do.
Right. Faces for radio. Isn't that the saying?
Oh, yeah, look, my old mom ain't going to be watching this. I can tell you that. So if you're watching, thank you, because my mother ain't, right? Oh, goodness. Hey, we are a brand new podcast. This is only our second episode. If you would like to sponsor us, we would welcome you on board. If you want to be a part of this as we go forward, just email me, cory.hogue@texasfootball.com, and we'll get you hooked up and get going there. And we have 3 legs. We would appreciate a sponsorship for each of the 3 legs that we have. And if you want to know why we have 3 legs, if you're not a Sam Houston Bearcat fan, you don't really know what's going on, go back and watch our first episode. It explains why we are March to the Pod and why we have 3 legs. And speaking of that, Ben, the first leg, Conference USA Media Day, football season is here, my man.
Yep, absolutely. Probably just wrapped up 2 or 3 hours ago. I know we're about to get into this preseason poll, kind of some comments from Coach Keeler from around the league. So I'm excited to break down this poll, the all conference teams, and just talk about all things Conference USA and Sam Houston football.
Yeah, no, this is going to be fun. It's good. And we got to start with this preseason poll. Ben, I I get it, man. I get it. We're new. We're new to the FBS. We ain't the only daggum new team here, and you put us last? You put us behind FIU and Jacksonville State?
Yeah.
And I could even understand Jacksonville State, but you think Florida International is going to be the team beat Sam Houston this year? Come on, man.
Yeah, a FIU team. They do return a good amount, but a team that really struggled with an FCS team in Bryant. Bryant's not a great FCS team. Florida International the couple years before that, I think they only had one or two wins each year. No reason why we shouldn't beat them and why we can't beat them. Jacksonville State, the last time the two teams played, obviously it's been a couple of years, but that was a 30-point win for Sam Houston. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of disrespect. I know Casey Keeler, he's a great motivator. He's good to kind of use that as bulletin board material. He talked a little bit about that today. So I'm excited to see kind of how he's going to spin that and use that this year. And also part of it, I think, is part of why I think Sam Houston got placed there is just maybe some laziness on the part of the voters, whoever they were. I feel like half of the articles that I see on a preview about Sam Houston football don't even know that we redshirted 15 to 20 of our best players last year. And they see a 5-4 record and they're like, well, they went 5-4 in the WAC last year. Yep, we'll just put them last. And so I feel like we just kind of get slotted there just from a lack of research on a lot of people's parts. So I think this team's got a lot of things to prove. I know Keeler's going to use it as some bulletin board material, and I'm excited to kind of revisit this in a couple of months and see where we're at.
Well, okay, man, you touched on a lot of things there. First off, Keeler using this for motivation. He has got to absolutely love the fact he was picked last. I would like to know if he's ever been picked last in his entire coaching career in a preseason poll.
Yeah,
Because normally he's top, right? And so normally he's the one going, these mean nothing, whatever. No, now he's like, wait a minute, you picked me last? You
yep.
think he's gonna have any problem getting those guys fired up for workouts later this week?
Yeah, absolutely not. And I feel like it's just the new wave of the soft Houston kind of meme and joke that followed the Cats for, I don't know, probably 10 years from 2011 up until they won the title in 2021. I kind of feel like this is the new wave of soft Houston. It's just something we got to embrace. And I know Keeler will. And like you said, being picked last, Keeler's never had a losing season at Sam Houston. The Cats have had 13 straight winning seasons. Obviously, this is a different level, but if you get picked last, you're probably winning one or two games the entire year. I don't
Look,
see that with this team. And
you're telling me, man, that this team won a national title in 2020. And you talked about lazy media not going. All you got to do is a darn Google search, and you'll find columns that I wrote last year talking about how this was just one of those things where, what he's doing, his strategy. Keeler's laid out his strategy. One thing I love about Casey Keeler, he always knows how to get to the narrative. He knows what he wants to say, and you will get it no matter what question you ask. And he started his press conference with that today. Just like, hey, guys, just a heads up. We're not going to be as bad as you think, basically. And he
yep.
explained that whole process. And it just, I'm ready because this is going to be fun. And then I got to ask you, because before we go any further, I know before all this stuff came out, they had Vegas has them at, I've seen 3.5 to 4
Mm-hmm.
wins, right? And so
Yep.
when I was looking at the schedule, I looked at and I go, okay, I see 3, I see a possible 4. I think now I see a 4, and I wouldn't doubt but a 5. You give Keeler this much this much motivation, and he's got a talented roster. He's got plenty of the 85 scholarships are there at Sam Houston now. I believe they're
Yep.
funding
They're
all
right
of them.
there.
Yeah, so I mean, they're not your typical FCS team coming up to FBS. This team's coming up here to kick some ass.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love talking about Keeler as kind of a strategist. Just being around the team a little bit over the past couple of years. He's not always the kind of X's and O's guys. He's not gonna just talk scheme for half an hour with you. He really delegates a lot to his assistants, and I know he trusts his assistants a lot, but he's gonna come up with a strategy to put into plan, and he's gonna come up with a way to motivate these guys. And I think that's what he's excelled at and what he's been really good at. as a head coach, and that's what's made him so successful. Is he knows how to delegate to those guys, and he can come up with a winning strategy and way to motivate his players. And it's worked for 30 plus years at the D3 level, all the way up to the FBS level now, winning multiple national championships. And I don't see any reason why it's going to stop. So I'm excited to see how it's going to be spun and what he's going to do this year.
It was interesting to me in that press conference. He shared a little bit of inside that you don't always you get from him sometimes. And I really love he's not afraid to tell you about feelings. He's not afraid to talk about feelings. He will
Mm-hmm.
talk about, and when he talked about how he felt and how he sat in Bobby Williams' office, was like, we're really going to go up to FBS, and eventually he starts to see he mentioned all the stadium renovations, everything that's happening good around the program and stuff right now. That's not happening if you're not going FBS. And I think that is all he needed to have that buy-in to say, you know what, I might not play for a national title every year, but I'm going to be playing for a bowl game, and we're gonna do what we can for Sam Houston.
Yeah, he's going to find something to compete for. That's for sure. And I know it killed him last year. It killed really the entire staff and all the players to have to sit out that many guys, the 15 to 20 guys that redshirted, and to have nothing to play for. And so it's been 2 years since we've had a season for something to play for. I mean, obviously, probably not a bowl game in the cards this year unless the dominoes kind of fall a certain way. But you got all your guys back. I know they're more motivated than ever, and I'm really excited to see what they're going to do. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is. And a couple other things from his press conference before we move on. He mentioned that he gave a quote. This is Keegan's team. He mentioned Grant Gunnell come in there, brought in. He's there for multiple years. That's why he wanted him to come in. He didn't just want a 1-year guy. And so that allows him to develop. And I got to tell you, from what I hear from other stops he's had, Gunnell has a lot of development to do. But we were talking before the show, and you said talking to the staff, that does not mean Keegan's the starting quarterback.
Yeah, and I think Keegan is the guy right now, but Gunnell, he has so much talent. We've seen him when he's at his best. He's a really good or a good Power 5 quarterback. And so right now it's Keegan's team. And I think regardless of if he's the starter or not, he is their guy. He's the leader of the group, and he's been the leader of the group all spring and this summer. But just because he's a leader doesn't mean he's the starter. Had a great spring, but Gunnell's going to come in and give him his best shot. And Gunnell's got some unbelievable talent. One of the all-time leading passers in Texas high school football history. We've seen him doing it at the Power 5 level. So Keegan's going to be the leader of this team regardless. But I think Grant's going to come in and really push him. And I think whoever wins the competition is going to be the best guy. And another way to look at it is on some of Keeler's Delaware teams, Ryan Carty was a captain, but Joe Flacco was the starter. Even last year, Desmond Jackson at running back was a captain, but Zach Herbacek got the majority of the snaps at running back. So just because you're the captain and the leader doesn't always mean you're the starter. I think right now, Shoemaker, he's got the job, but there's no reason why Gunnell can't take it. And it's going to be a really interesting battle in the fall.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you, Ben. It's going to be a fun one to watch and something we'll be keeping track on here. Hey, Ben, have you ever heard of that place called catfund.com?
No, I haven't
Really?
actually. No, I'm kidding.
Hey,
Yes, I
man.
have. I've been there a time or two,
Yeah.
just
Hey,
once or
look,
twice.
I don't really know. I don't want to call it necessarily an NIL. It's kind of operating that way. Like it's either way. The money raised goes to the athletes, right? And this was made for the little donors, for if you from as low as $10, and if you have the means up to $1,000 a month. And even for just $10 a month, you get inside to exclusive content, and we're going to be talking about some of that content that's been out on catfans.com. If you sign up for a membership through Cat Fund, you get premium access over at Cat Fans, and that premium access gets you things ahead of time. You're going to find breaking news out first. You're going to know what's going on with the team. And Ben, a couple of those things is some recruiting news, which you said is going to be coming out soon over on Cat Fans.
Yeah, so yeah, I've just some stuff in the works. I've heard of a 2024 quarterback that is very high on Sam Houston, supposed to visit the program here pretty soon. So Assuming that news goes live or breaks within the team, we'll have it first there on Cat Fund, and it'll go live probably the next day. So that's just one of many things that you can find on there is recruiting intel before it goes live. I know we've been doing some position by position breakdowns that we've seen from fall practice or from spring practices and stuff this summer. Some good info there. We've broken game contracts, got quotes from players and coaches on different things. So there's a ton on there when it comes to exclusive information, and I highly recommend signing up. It only costs $10 a month, and that's as cheap as you're really going to get anywhere for this kind of inside access. So
And it's
yeah, a
important to
lot
note
going
that
on.
that money goes to the athletes. And
Absolutely,
we
100%.
yeah, are you guys had some things you could be announcing here soon too, as far as when it comes to some of that. Am I right?
Yeah, not exactly sure when this will go live. This is Tuesday the 25th, but Wednesday the 26th, we're officially signing some contracts with some football players. They'll be our first athletes, and that'll start here in the coming weeks. And so a lot of really exciting stuff. We launched about 6 months ago, officially signing some guys, and all money from Cat Fund goes directly to the players as a part of NIL deals. And so none of that goes to us as board members or people that are help running Cat Fund. It goes strictly to those players, which is ultimately what we want to happen.
Yeah, no, that's the reason for it, and you're doing it the right way. Look, this should come out tomorrow. I have a feeling this will be out tomorrow, and so if you're listening to this, you're getting the news as it's breaking right here. These athletes are getting NIL deals, and it's because of Cat Fund, cat-fund.com. Go there, $10 a month, up to $1,000 a month. If you can do it, they would appreciate it, I'm sure. And speaking of some of that content, Ben, let's get into some of those position previews. We kind of mentioned the quarterbacks during the first leg of the program. Here in the second leg, I think, is there anything else you want to add about the quarterback competition or even the quarterback room in general?
Yeah, like I said, it's an open competition between Shoemaker and Gunnell. I think they're the clear top two. Xavier Word was brought in, and I know he had a lot of talk around him, and rightfully so. I mean, he's unbelievably talented, but not a lot of people know he's only 19. He's had very limited reps at the QB position over the past couple of years. He played in California in high school. Their senior season got canceled due to COVID, enrolled early at Washington State, had some injuries, had some guys ahead of him. So hasn't seen a lot of time the past couple of years, still super young. He's a guy that could really make an impact in the years ahead and compete for the job. And then lastly, Trapper Panel. He's another guy that has seen some time running the ball when he's come in at quarterback, has thrown it a little bit. Team is looking to maybe use him at some other positions to try to get him the ball. So that's on the quarterback side. Keeler did mention, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna. You got anything else on the quarterback? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's it on the quarterback. And then I was gonna bring up tight end a little bit. I know Keeler
Yeah, I was
talked
going to
about
get into
that.
that when we talk wide receivers and stuff here, but yeah, he mentioned that. We'd go ahead and do that now. He
Yeah.
mentioned that's the main position of concern, and maybe he said these days. I remember he said these days you don't find tight ends anymore. There right now is not a time to find. It's a special type of position, special athletic build that you're looking for to be a good tight end, and
Yep.
there are just not many available right now.
Yeah, and I think the team feels good about Jack Sherrard. He transferred in from Davidson last year, played a couple games, showed some good stuff, but I think it's what's behind him that's a little uncertain. I know Thomas Jewett is there. He came in from Strake Jesuit High School last season. And he showed some good stuff, but he's still young. He hasn't really played a lot. So I think it's what's behind Jax that could be a concern. If there's any two tight end sets, I think that's where some uncertainty might come in. And obviously depth is always going to be an issue. First year transferring from FCS up to FBS play. So I think the concern at tight end isn't really Jax or the starter. I think it's how much depth is there behind it. And I think
Yeah,
Thomas
well,
is really talented, but he just hasn't played much.
injuries happen. It's a part of football. You've got to have that depth, and no one knows that better than this coaching staff. And they have built some, but FBS depth is different than FCS depth. So that's why towards the end of this season is when you could start to see a little bit of that kick in, depending on how things play out with injuries and stuff.
Yeah, and I think I said it back in our first episode, but the two things this season hinges on are quarterback play and depth. How healthy can the team stay? And like I said earlier too, I think bye week is week 3. So you got to play 10 games after your bye week, which is really tough, especially considering this is your transition year. So it's going to be interesting to see how that depth holds up.
Yeah. Oh, it will. And so getting into other positions, you had a running back has been released and previewed out on the Cat Fans and the premium content there. And you said it's going to be a strength, and they were pretty good in 2022, and Keeler's known for having a great rushing attack. So you mentioned Herbacek. Who else is besides him? How does he look this year, and who else is behind him?
Yeah, so Zach Herbacek is the clear number one, and he showed just some incredible stuff once he kind of took over that lead back role towards the end of last season. And I know the team averaged almost 200 yards a game when he was the lead back, so I'm really excited about him. He looked great in spring camp. He's put on anywhere from 10 to 12 pounds, and he's just as fast as ever. He's got great quickness. He's really beefed up, so he looks really good. And then right behind him, I think the team made a really under the radar kind of pick up in a guy in John Gentry from Utah State. Had 400 or 500 yards total at Utah State in the 2 seasons he played there. And he looked great in spring, kind of a combination of power and speed, can do a little bit of it all, come out of the backfield and catch it too. So I think he's going to be really good. I know there was a spring practice I was at where they were scrimmaging, and he took it 50 yards to the house, broke a couple tackles at the line of scrimmage, and then outran a couple DBs. And so he's a guy that can kind of do it all. And then I think after him, the next guy would be Jordan Yates or maybe Charles Crawford. Jordan Yates, obviously the starting quarterback last year, has made the transition to running back, and he's got all the tools to do it. Just not a ton of experience there. So how does he put it all together? I think if he can put it together, he's going to be really talented because he's got the ability to do it. And then Charles Crawford is another guy too who saw some snaps last year. I know he scored a touchdown against Tarleton, and he's been on the team a couple of years, so he knows the system, he knows the coaches, is familiar with everybody there, and he's a guy that's been dependable when he's been called upon. So I think the top two you feel really confident in, and it's just a matter of who grabs that third spot because you're going to need a third running back at some point.
Well, yeah, because that's the one position that gets beat up the most, and that's why they're losing all their value in the NFL. But we don't discuss the NFL, Ben. We're only talking Sam Houston. Wide receiver group, that position, what you released that one, I believe that's the most recent one you released. Am I right?
Yeah, I think that yesterday morning I think is when that came out.
Yeah, and that I was looking at that one, and it's a very, very interesting room. And I was listening to Keeler talk about it today. This may be one of the best receiver rooms that this team has had in the last few years. I mean, I think it definitely rivals what they had in 2020 during the national title season.
Yeah, and I think even kind of the 16, 17, 18 area with Davion Davis and Nathan Stewart, that group was really special. And then the 2020-21 group with Jaquez Ezzard and Ife Adeyi, that was, and Cody Crest, that was a really special group. But man, the depth and kind of the unique ability of different guys in this group is really special. And so obviously Ife Adeyi is going to be the bell cow. He's the guy. He's done it. He's proven it. He looks really good in camp from what I saw in the spring. And so he's going to be your leader. And obviously that top end speed is going to be something that's going to be a really big thing they're going to try to take advantage of.
Yeah, I want to give a couple of names here.
Yep.
The Ife Adeyi, Noah Smith from running back. We know those guys, Ben. We know them, but we need some guys we don't
Yep.
know. And there's a couple of those,
Yeah.
including I believe Quavez. That's how you say his first name.
Yep.
Quavez Humphreys. He comes from Butler Community College, one of the top JUCOs in the country every year, leading them in receiving yards until he had an injury cutting his season short. And now he's at Sam Houston, 6'3". That's great. Hey, that plays. Don't also count out Quintavious Workman. Workman comes in 6'6". He was also a JUCO guy last year. He's a guy that can give you matchup problems on the outside. And Ben, I have a feeling the offensive staff is just dreaming up plays every night in the red zone to get that man the ball in the corner.
Yeah, and they were in the spring. We saw a couple of little fades up there, and I mean, you're not going to find many DBs that can compete with 6'6", and he's a long 6'6", a strong 6'6", and yeah, Quavez. I think so there were a lot of skill guys that were kind of limited in spring, like your Ife Adeyi, Zach Herbacek, Noah Smith was dealing with an injury, so Quavez was really the guy that was probably the most impressive player, maybe on both sides of the ball. He underwent another foot operation towards the end of spring, but he'll be ready to go in the fall. But 6'3", I think I saw he ran a 4.39 40 when he was at Butler. So he's going to be really impressive. Some people compare his game to kind of what Jaquez Ezard was able to do. Obviously, Quintavious is 6'6", and then the last JUCO guy is Malik Phillips, and he's a guy that can kind of do it all. He played at New Mexico Military Institute. They won a JUCO national title a few years ago, and then he was top 10 in JUCO in receiving yards last year. And so when you bring in Noah Smith and Ife Adei, and then you bring in those 3 JUCO guys that have some experience and some really good size, I mean, just with those 5 right there, I mean, that's a pretty good room. And then there's some other guys I'm sure we'll get into here in a second.
You talk about you talk about Keeler, you talk about moving up to FBS. There's one area when I talked to him that he found and may have been a little bit overlooked at times, and that is the JUCO ranks, man. They're not getting the love that they had been getting. And Keeler told me months ago, they have found some tremendous talent at the JUCO ranks. And I think wide receiver is one of those positions that they went out and were really able to grab a few dynamic guys to put in there, and team with what they already had was a solid room.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as a school like Sam Houston, obviously you're not going to win recruiting battles against Texas and A&M, and you're not going to compete for portal guys like that most of the time. So you got to find those diamonds in the rough. And especially at the wide receiver group this year, I think you found 3 huge diamonds in the rough. I mean, Quavez, I think could even possibly be he could be the number 1 this year. Quintavious, you can't teach 6'6". He's gonna find his way on the field, and Malik has proven he's a winner and can get it done. So I mean, they found 3 dudes at the JUCO level, that's for sure.
That's awesome. Excited to see them keep going. And Ben, we're going to move on into the third leg. Before we do, if you would like to sponsor this third leg, give us a shout. Cory.Hogue, Cory.Hogue at texasfootball.com. Shoot me an email. Let me know you're interested, and we'll definitely get going here. This is, again, episode 2, Ben, and you ought to anyone the people who listened the first time, and to all the people that are already following us on the social media, I got to say thank you. It's really something to see how many people love and care about, not only Sam Houston, but they want to hear this stuff, and they're tuning in, and we really appreciate that. It means a lot.
Yeah, and I love the interaction side of it too. So I mean, drop a comment on social media, on YouTube, whatever it might be. The interaction part of it is great. Just have some back and forth and some dialogue about these teams. Maybe we'll take some questions from fans at some point, but that's what makes it fun, is the interaction. And so, yeah, make sure to listen, comment, subscribe, do all the above. That's for sure.
Had a little fun the other day. Our Twitter account did with some New Mexico State, and I do. You know what? This is a great time to go off script. This is a great time for me to go off script and just say, I didn't put it out there. I didn't want to embarrass them on the social medias, but I'll do it here now. Right? You said 8 or 9 NFL caliber players. And then when I said you're not going to have 8 or 9 drafted, they said I didn't say that. I said caliber. What the heck is a NFL caliber player if they don't get drafted?
Yeah, even if you're a CFL or XFL guy, you're still not an NFL guy. I mean, so yeah.
Let me tell you something, Ben. As someone who has spent the last couple seasons, getting ready to spend another one, watching every Dallas Cowboys home game from up there in the press box.
I'm sorry. That must be painful. I'm kidding. We'll move on.
Dude, Jerry serves great food. He really does.
The team, maybe not the stadium.
You know what? It's a fun team because you've got some young guys on there like Micah Parsons and stuff. You have some good young players on there that are just, I get it. You're not a fan. I'm not asking you to be a fan. I'm not asking you to read what I write because it's probably not going to be that great anyhow after the games. I'm just saying I see the talent level, and it is different. I mean, there is a huge leap from XFL, USFL to the NFL. Luis Perez, love the guy, Texas A&M Commerce, national champion, 2017 quarterback. He got on with the Rams. He was third-team practice squad. This guy goes to XFL and he leads them to a championship.
Yep.
That he couldn't get on the field, touch a backup spot in the NFL, that just tells you that level is just so much higher there.
Yeah, even like PJ Walker, I got to see him play live a couple times. He was just on a different level at the XFL level.
Yeah.
And you get to the NFL and average starter, good backup maybe kind of thing. And so it's just a massive gap, that's for
So
sure.
so New Mexico fans, no, man, we're calling you on that. There's no way you've got 8 or 9 NFL caliber players. If you did, you would be ranked in the top 25.
I was gonna say there's probably about 20 teams that might have that many.
Well, I mean, oh gosh, not even that. I
Maybe.
mean, okay, Alabama, LSU, right? You're gonna have yours like that, but man, Texas don't have Texas. University of Texas had 8 NFL drafted players or caliber players in the last 10 years combined. Just about, it's been really bad there.
Are they
Texas
back?
A&M doesn't have that.
Is
Are they
Texas
back? Hey, man, I was at coaching school, and yeah, I don't think they're back. I don't know. I'm not gonna say they're back. I wish Sarkeesian and the Longhorns luck, but man, that's a hard job. It's a hard place to be. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about the University of Texas. We're going to go back
We're
into
talking about
Sam
the real
Houston.
orange here.
Exactly, the real orange. The reason why we're here. And by the way, New Mexico State fans, you don't you learn in basketball. You have an argument with us in basketball. Like, we think you can hang.
They didn't beat us.
Well, see,
We
that's
swept
but you
them
can
last year.
hang. They can
Yeah, they
hang.
can.
But man, football, you've had 1 year that you've been good. You made a bowl game last year, and all of a sudden you're out here talking smack. Slow it down, New Mexico State. Again, Aggie fans, man, they ain't slowing that down. I know those
Yeah.
guys.
In a season where I think 2 of their 6 wins were against non-FBS or FCS teams, something like that. So I think only 4 of their 6 wins were against FBS teams.
A couple years ago, they got blown out at UTEP by Tarleton during the COVID year. So some of us remember that as well, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So Aggie fans, miss us or come at us. We would love to get back with you on this one as well. We're going to move into the third leg, which is where we talk about our men's basketball coaching news. And before we go into that, I'm going to give a little more coaching school. I got to meet Chris Mudge at coaching school. He gave a presentation. It was a great presentation. He did an outstanding job, and had a chance to. He is a good person. He is a great guy. I really enjoyed meeting him. He stayed after. He talked to every single coach that wanted to. Then he recorded something for Dumb Old Me, you know, and for our podcast here. And he listens. I mean, he actually listens. So, hey, Coach Mudge, hi. I'm waving at you if you're watching on video. If you're not, I'm saying hi. How you doing, Coach Mudge? It was great to meet him. I did not get to meet Coach Justice. She gave one also on Monday morning, but I had another commitment with, you know, my real job covering 34 teams, and so I didn't quite make it over there. I wanted to. I didn't quite make it over there in time to meet her. I was just after they had left, so unfortunate on that. But yes, glad to meet Coach Mudge. Great person. Really looking forward to what he does. And I thought I knew basketball. What, listening to him, I don't know nothing about basketball. This guy's got the X's and O's down, and part of that's because of the staff that he has, and he finalized that bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mudge is one of the greatest people you'll meet. I mean, he's been amazing to me every time we have a conversation, nothing but good things to say about him. But yeah, finalized the staff, and I really like it. So obviously we'll start off with Justin Bailey.
Yeah.
Decided to keep him on staff. He's been on staff for the past 2 years, and 2 years that are some of the most successful in Sam Houston program history. And so I think keeping him was a big thing. And also another big reason why I think it's important to keep him is he was the guy that recruited Cam Hoofner to Sam Houston. So Justin Bailey used to be at Pittsburgh State where Cam Hoofner started. When Bailey moved over, Hoofner moved with them. And so I think Keeping Bailey was obviously big because he's extremely talented and good at what he does, but it also was good because I think that might have played a part in keeping Cam Hoofner as well. And so that's where we'll start keeping Justin Bailey. I think the other big, well, there's a couple more big ones, but the next one, Brendan Foley,
Yeah.
coming over from Buffalo, where he served as the recruiting coordinator and assistant coach. And before that was the head coach at, I think I'm saying this right, I know it's in Texas, Chipola Junior College. He was the head coach there. They were a top 10 JUCO team while he was at Chipola. So he's got some head coaching experience. And I think that's something you need on a staff with a first-year head coach is head coaching experience. And he's done it at a very high level at the JUCO level in Texas.
Oh,
Yep.
hey, man, he's got, yes. Keeping Bailey, huge. Adding
Mhm.
Foley, really good. But man,
Yep.
I am excited about who else he added. And it's a Longview native, Jake
Yep.
White. He brings he's going to bring some great things to this staff as well.
Yeah, and the really interesting thing with Jake White is he's got a lot of experience in Texas coaching at the collegiate level, but he was most recently at Link Academy. And for those that don't know Link Academy, I believe it's in Branson, Missouri, and they just won the national championship for high school basketball. And so he is extremely well connected in the recruiting spheres when it comes to some of the elite talent within the USA. And I think that's going to be a really big asset. We'll see what he can bring as far as the X's and O's, but as far as recruiting goes, I mean, he was just the head assistant at the top national or of the national championship winning team in the country. He's well connected in those spheres, and so I think that's a really big addition. And then the last one I'll talk about is Anthony Fobb. He was the head coach at Made Creek High School most recently, and so I think that's a really good way to stay connected in the Houston area. And so you keep Bailey. So you kind of retain what had been going on. Foley's got head coaching experience at a high level at Buffalo. Jake White got experience all across the country with some of the top talent, and then Anthony Fobb connected in the Houston area. So I think he did a really good job of hitting a bunch of different areas with this staff, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, I am too. I think that they're going to be great. And when you start talking about getting into that basketball world and that stuff, when and the upper echelons, the upper levels, and what was going on, um, there are some recent books out. One written by the guy that was on Adidas, and he went to jail, and so it's I can't remember the name of that book for the life of me right now. I
Yeah.
I read it. I read it back. It was the first book I read. I do a summer reading thing, just personal, and I started it I think in May, and it was really good. But he gave the insight. He was in there with Zion's recruitment and
Hmm.
a lot of interesting things in there. What really goes on inside that in that world uh, of high school basketball, the Adidas, the Nike,
Yep.
the
EYBL, Peach
oh,
Jam, all that kind of stuff.
it's
Yeah.
all it all changes. It's so big, and it is something. And there's some stories out there. So to have guys connected into some of that is definitely those relationships. Those are huge in getting the talent to come to Huntsville.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in basketball, a lot of the recruiting that's done is by the assistants. They're the ones that they go out and find these guys, serve as the primary recruiter. And they're the ones that build the relationships. And so I think he's done a really good job staying connected to Texas, staying connected to elite talent all across the US and bringing in some head coaching experience. So, and he said that he loves his staff. He's super excited about his staff and kind of a sidebar too is one thing that we saw Hooten and his staff do last year, and they made an initiative of this is to really pour into the social media and fan
Yeah.
engagement side. They did a really good job of that, and the team is continuing to do that. Kyle McLeroy, new director of basketball operations, he had been at Dallas Baptist a couple of years. I don't know if he's the one running it right now. I know Payne Andrus was the one running it as the former director of operations, but they're just continuing it, putting out videos, good content, and so that's important. I mean, it's something you have to do as a staff. You don't have 5 guys dedicated to video and content, and so it's something they've continued to do well, and I think they will continue to do well.
They do, and as Sam Houston grows, maybe that part will grow too, right? Like, I mean, you look at the Power Five schools. Uh, I don't think the DBO's handling the social media account. They usually have a communications person with the team
Right.
that handles a lot of that stuff. So, getting up there eventually, maybe Not anytime soon, but on the path. You got to start somewhere. Heading into Conference USA is on the path. What roster moves did the men's basketball team make?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll start with the most recent one. And this is just a really cool story. And I'm sure you probably got to look at it. Was the team just signed Bryce Cook, and he reported about a week or two ago,
Yeah.
a guy that graduated high school in 2019, but his senior year of high school, he suffered, I believe it was a stroke. And he hasn't played competitive basketball since. He was committed to SMU, had a bunch of high major offers as a point guard. And so that's just a really cool story, kind of a second chance for him. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I think the really big name I have to mention is Devon Barnes, coming from Texas Southern. He was their leading scorer on a team that made the NCAA tournament. I believe he put up 22 points at Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse. He scored 25 plus in 6 or 7 games last year. 6'5", kind of guard slash wing. He's going to be really good. I think he could be the leading scorer for this team this year. And then I'll hit
Look,
on.
I'll throw in Texas Southern, man. That's a basketball school. They do not play an easy non-conference schedule, but
No.
they're in the NCAA tournament because they're hard to beat.
They are. Yep. And he was their leading scorer last year. He averaged 13.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds a game, scored 30 points against Samford on the road. So, I mean, he's a guy that can fill it up. I mean, there's no reason why he can't go for 15, 20, 25 a night, and he's proven he can do it. And then the last guy I'll hit on as kind of a real big notable one is Souleymane Doumbia, transfer 7-foot center from TCU. It came to TCU from Navarro College, where he was projected to possibly be a first-round NBA draft pick. Things just didn't really pan out at TCU, but as a 7-footer, he's got elite skills, and I think if he puts it together and gets put in the right position, he's a guy that could be super dangerous for this team. And so, great coaching staff, and I think they've brought in some really good pieces. They've brought in some other names like CJ Beaumont, freshman, Marcus Boykin, who averaged 25 a game at the D2 level, Owen McGlashan, who shot almost 50% from 3 at the D2 level. He's a 6'7" wing. So a lot of really interesting pieces that have been brought in, and obviously we've got a couple months to go, but I like what's been put together and what's coming back as well.
Ben, episode 2, man, we did it.
Yep. Hey, second of many more to come. We've got a lot to go over. That's for sure.
Hey, I should say, and I probably should have said this earlier, we will be back next week. We're going to start we start the weekly basis. We're going to try to get a consistent schedule out. I believe we're shooting for recording Tuesday, release on Wednesdays. Yep. I think is what we're looking at during the season. Or moving on now, we're going to do our best to hold to that so you guys have that consistency and knowing when we're going to come out. Ben, thank you so much, man. It's great as always.
Yep, absolutely. Pleasure's all mine.
Yes, sir. And thank you to you, the listener. Again, without you, none of this is even possible. Until next time, eat 'em up, cats.